Yeah. Oh, can you fill me in? Let's talk about it.
We might have to come back and talk about other stuff along those lines as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, Rachel Campey. I can't remember how we met. I don't know if I saw a story and then added you on Facebook. Or was it an event?
I think we were at an event with Leeds City Council. I think it was when you must have still been with them
Right.
doing prison work, because I was saying that mental health when they come out, especially for those that are under 25, and I think we kind of...
Yes.
I
And
don't
it was
think
more.
so.
It was more about the work that you was doing, and then I slowly started to find out more about sort of your past and what sort of stuff went on. And you recently graduated. You had your picture with your hat
Yeah.
and your little girl. And what was you graduating for?
Counselling psychology, so
Okay.
yeah, quite a biggie.
And this is a big deal for most people, being able to sort of succeed in something like that, something that you want to do for the rest of your life, something you're passionate about. But for you, it was a lot harder getting there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Everyone has a journey there, but I think I'm so unaware of how difficult it was. It's only when I sit down and talk about it I realise so much shouldn't have happened, rather than, oh yeah, that happened, move on. And I think that's why I'm so heavily involved with work around education and mental health as well now, because I do want that change. I don't want them to go through that again.
Okay, so jump back to being 14.
You can go previous, because I think I was on a path of very self-destructive behaviour for a few years before that, before I fell pregnant, and there were loads of like intricate details that probably all added up for me to take that route. And me not blaming anyone else, it's just the way life happened for me.
Okay.
So I've always been acutely aware of mental health. My dad was probably diagnosed with psychosis in 2000 to 2002. So I was 4 then. So I suddenly developed a young carer role in primary school, helping my mum around. One of my earliest memories is my mum sitting me on the kitchen side. The smell of hot water and lemon, so someone must have had a cold, like it's instilled in my brain. And her sitting me on the side and saying, Daddy's gone away for a while, he's in a hospital because he's got a poorly head. And to a young person, you'd like, oh, that's fine, everything will get back to normal, but it didn't. It got dramatically worse. He was failed a lot by the mental health system with a diagnosis such as psychosis, as stigmas. And my mum would always push me to be open about mental health. So I transitioned from a primary school that was very supportive to high school, where you're kind of silenced and dumbed down in that area. Well, that's what I experienced over 10 years ago. And I'd need my phone on me, and they wouldn't understand that. And then if I openly spoke about it, people would be like, oh, is he a psycho? As in, like, the killer Norman Bates? And I'm like, no, that's just not it at all.
Is this young people who you're in school with?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
And I'm like, one, why are you watching that? Now looking back. Two, are you really that unaware of mental health illnesses? And I think because I went to young carers working groups and stuff, and I've done a lot of work with them now, looking back, I had that little support bubble, but it didn't. I was so naive in thinking everyone else understood what it was back then. And because of being a young carer, my attendance started to wobble. And the class, the form, whatever it's called now, would be penalised. They wouldn't get treats because the class attendance would be down. And that started nitpicking and bullying with me, and then it had turned into my features and everything else. And that made me really struggle with body dysmorphia, and I started to develop an eating disorder when I was around 12. So that happened during school, and the bullying got worse. I once got pushed down the tower block stairs and I broke a few ribs, and the school was like, well, what did she do for it to happen? And so my mum was bashing her head against a wall for that, and I'd had many suicide attempts during school and self-harm, and I think drink, everything else, hanging around with older kids to get away from it all. Just followed this path and ended up pregnant, and that's on me. And I ended up pregnant at 14, but suddenly everyone were against me, and I kind of realised if I do want to stick with this path in life and not have an abortion, that I need to change my life considerably. So that's a bit of the backstory before then.
Okay. So you're 14, you're pregnant
Yeah.
at school. You're saying if I don't want to have an abortion, I need to do this particular thing. And how did the school react to you being pregnant?
They were the most unsupportive institution I've ever come across. My mum spoke to the school and was like, right, well, she's not safe here. Put it down to safety at first. And my mum was like, she doesn't need to go up the tower block because they were using the tower. What if she falls down the tower block? Well, there's a whole ground floor building. Anyway, the head of year pulled me out of the class and took me to his office and went, we really need a serious discussion. Is the person who got you pregnant on this school site? And I was like, no, he's from a different school. And I was like, oh, good, that's good. But 2 of you aren't going to have to leave. And I was like, what do you mean? And I started to panic because I do suffer with panic attacks. And I started to have one. And he sent me to the first aid room. And obviously I went in thinking I was waiting for a teacher. And he was just shouting at me in this first aid room, like, you're ruining this school's perfect image. You've proven you're from a council estate is one of the things he said. And I was like, okay, thanks for that one. Maybe it was, but the biggie for me was you either leave school today or you have an abortion and come back in a couple of weeks.
And this is from your head of year, your teacher?
Yeah, and I sat down in that room and he walked out and I thought I'd be able to get out, and I was on the phone to my mum, and my mum was like, I'll ring you back, he's trying to ring me. And I was trying on the handle on this door and this room were locked. So he'd locked me in the room and his room was right next to the first aid room. And as it goes, he was on the phone to my mum mocking me for having a panic attack, going, oh, she's saying she can't breathe, this, that and the other. And it was only when my mum was like, well, I'm ringing the police, they'll let me go. And I was off school grounds and he was like, well, you're not welcome back because you're not going to have an abortion. But it went on for a couple of hours and it is still something really traumatic for me. And then I know my daughter's probably not going to go through the same scenario, but it makes me very untrusting towards teachers. And there's so many amazing teachers that helped me. But that one person did kind of break my trust in the education system.
Wow. So what happens there? He says this thing to you. So it's obviously already a confusing time for you. You know, you're a year away from your GCSEs and now you've got this decision to make.
Yeah, I did.
And was there ever a consideration?
I did. I went to the abortion clinic, but I just couldn't do it.
Right.
It was pressure from family and
That made you go
school.
there?
Yeah.
Right.
I from day one I was like, I'm going to keep this baby, but people weren't as supportive. But I think it took a lot of time for them to realise that I've not effed my life up. And that I am.
You can swear if you want.
Good, thanks. I haven't fucked my life up, and that I didn't know if I had to be. I'm so used to work being like PG,
Just
and I'm
my
like,
mum don't like the C word, so as long as that don't come out,
no, it's
we'll be
fine.
all
My
right.
mum doesn't either. She'd be like slapping me around back of head. Got a 7-year-old, but you'll still get a crack for that. But yeah, so it was just very weird. I remember it being chaotic. It's when I think back, it's very blurred. It's like, do you know in action movies when they're walking down the street and everyone's running past it? It's very like that for me. It feels chaotic, especially because I was bounced around the education system. So the reason the school used was my mental health, that I was a liability in the school, not because I was pregnant. So I was sent to a school for people with really serious mental health issues, and I was like, looking back now, someone would have desperately needed that place, and my school took it up and used me and put me there because they couldn't be bothered sorting anything else out. But they were really supportive, and I went to a mum's college, which was horrendous, and I'm quite glad. I don't think it exists anymore. I went and it was the hottest day of year through August, and I'm about 7 months pregnant, and they sat us in this room with no aircon and was like, right, draw posters on why radiators are really dangerous for babies to be near. I'm going to go sit a newborn baby on top of a radiator. Like, it was just stuff about common sense. And I remember them ringing my mum, and this shows how kind of sexist the education system is towards young parents. She rang up my mum and she was like, she can read and write. And my mum was like, yeah. And she was like, she can do basic maths. And my mum was like, most of the girls there will be able to.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah, that was...
So it just shows you not to say anything against the other people that were there, but they were there for either learning difficulties or
No, it was just purely for
attention
young
or-
mums at this young mums
that
college.
right.
At Grafton, that was purely mental health reasons, and they quickly realised that I didn't belong there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't mental health reasons that the school put me in there. It was because I was pregnant and they couldn't bother dealing with it. So obviously, I went to this mums group and there were a lot of people from my area and there were a lot of the girls causing drama, and it was something I sat there and I realised I don't really want to be involved in that. Like, I wish you all the best, and I don't really have any mum friends. I have one or two now that I've made recently, but no, like, it wasn't for me. And then I had her in the October and they give me a week off, and then they started sending homeschooling people, and again my mum got that comment, she can read. And I'm like, a lot of these parents probably do go through that, but it shows how shocked you have to be.
Yeah. So this must be from what the school have said.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
They've portrayed this really sort of negative image, and then people are meeting you going, hang on a minute.
Is this right? Yeah, yes.
I'd like to say that things are better now, but I know of a school in Leeds that moves students out to keep their results up. So their grades, so their GCSEs and stuff, if people are underperforming, they move them to like a branch. I don't know if it's a PRU, but it's like a temporary off-site provision. Yeah. And then all the kids who are achieving do the GCSEs at that school, and the results are high, and then it looks like they're doing really well. I
feel that's a lot to do with the pressure with government and results, though. Because I know so many amazing teachers, and I'd never want to slag off their trade in any way, because they've got a tough job raising like 30 to 200 kids.
Teachers and police are the two things I'd hate to do.
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter wants to be a police officer, and I'm like, not at the moment with everything's happening. Yeah, and she's like, I won't be like the naughty ones, and I'm like, okay, you can't go on saying that. But
that's what we need. We need more people like her.
Yeah, she's very outspoken on politics and rights, and she's like a little feminist, which is what I love. And I feel like if my life had been different, I wouldn't have achieved anything like this without her, which shows a lot about the self-worth my education instilled in me. But
I think this is the thing, when you become pregnant at a young age, or even I'd say up to being 20, it is sort of like but you've got the rest of your life to live, like it's a hindrance.
Oh yeah, how are you gonna have a career?
How are you? What about going on a holiday? What about traveling? What about? And it's like, but what about being a mum?
Yeah, what about everything I get to experience with her? Like, I had a group of friends back then, and really unsupportive, taking me down like the wrong road, always wanting to go out on a Saturday night. And I've never, and especially when I had Lily, no drugs for me, but they were going down that path. And this was after 14 Plus Apprenticeship Academy, or about 16, 17 then. But I suddenly realised, these aren't the people I should be hanging around with to make a difference.
Yeah.
And now my group of friends, they love Lily, they adore her. Anywhere we're going, they're like, if it's a pub, obviously I can't take her, but otherwise they'll work it out and they'll find venues so I can take Lily, and they all sit and talk to her and really engage with her. And to me, she just has loads of aunties and uncles. I'm an only child, so she won't get that experience, but with my friends being there and being supportive, I think that's what got me through a lot of it as well.
Makes a massive difference, doesn't it? And we do, like, we try and say this to young people now. If you look at the people in your circles and what they're getting up to, it's always going to take you that way. Like when I started doing things like spoken word, and I'm introduced to these amazing sort of really well-educated people, and we start having conversations, and I just think in any other circumstance I wouldn't fit in this group, in this conversation, and it's helped me to achieve more by being around other people who are sort of focused on career. Do you know what I mean? It definitely rubs off on you.
For me, it was very focused. I'll get this degree.
Yeah.
And now I'm like in the aftermath, and I'm like, I'll get my masters, and I'm like, how far is it?
Yeah, I'm going to say what happens. So
Yeah.
you leave the, what's the 14th thing called?
14 plus apprenticeship academy.
Okay, so
I was the first year of that, so you can imagine how brilliant that went. But I had an amazing science teacher called Emma. I've tried to contact her since to thank her, and I never got the details, but she just went above and beyond, and she'd sit on her lunch and her breaks going through science things with me, and it was just
good to
that.
see it all went in as well, calling it science things.
Yeah, science
Yeah,
things.
it's all stuck with you.
I studied a social science psychology, but science,
all the science, all the
biology,
things in
chemistry,
science.
and physics. There you go.
Okay.
So she'd sit, and so would my English teacher and my maths teacher. But Emma had, it's minuscule probably to her, but she bought me a book on viruses, and it was second hand. It must have been hers, and she gave me it, and I really cherished it, and I still have it today. And it's just like that little thing, like she didn't have to do that, and she went above and beyond for me, and it really did help. I did get a good grade in my science. Can't remember what it is now.
So did your GCSE? So you didn't do. You went back to your school and asked.
I did my GCSEs there, failed maths.
Right.
A college down the road turned round and said, "I'll come back when your daughter's in primary school. We might accept you for A levels. Then we think it's a bit too much work now." Lily's won, I think, maybe nearing one.
So you've got
There.
what, 2 years to wait?
3, 4,
Three, yeah.
So Lily's won at this point. I'm like, what am I going to do? I need to be in education because obviously they've raised it up to 18. I'm 16. What am I going to do? So my friend was like, walk back into your school. Tell them what they did wasn't okay. And they turned into an academy over this period. So it were all new heads and stuff. So I went in and I explained the situation, what happened with that head of year. He was still there. Explained, I'm going to go to the press. I hope you know this.
You go in and say, this thing
With
happened.
massive balls at 16 to walk into this school.
Kick the door open and be like, oi, listen. But is there a conversation that happens with the teacher? Is he asked about this?
I never spoke to him, and I don't even know what I'd say to him now because obviously I've achieved everything. But looking back then, probably called him everything under the sun.
But did they check that this was a real thing?
Yeah.
And did he ever admit it?
Yeah, he left that day.
The day you walked in and said, oh, wow.
I saw him walking off when I got on the school bus back with my friend.
Did he have like the box with his
with all these little files? He took early retirement from what I heard anyway.
So the thing that he was trying to protect, the image of the school, a few years later comes back to bite him in the ass because he's now the person. I think
that's probably one of my mum's proudest moments for me as well, because she saw the struggle. She knew that I wanted my education. I always knew I wanted to go to uni, but I never knew what I wanted to do. And I remember A levels, my psychology teacher was a right bitch at nearly said the school then. At the school. Oops. Lawsuit. But she was like, "Oh, you'll never be able to do a degree in psychology. You're really stupid with it." And I'm like, "Oh, really?"
That's an exact quote.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she'd always pick on me for having a nose ring, and I had bright orange hair. It was atrocious, but it wasn't my fault.
So you can sort of understand why she... All right,
but she was stood there going, "You can't look like that with bright red hair and a nose ring herself." And I was like, double standards. And I got along
so if anyone knows a psychology teacher that had bright red hair and a nose ring, that's who she's talking about.
Guess the school. But my art and my history teacher were both males, and they were the most supportive in the whole school towards me. And my head of year for sixth form was a PE teacher, and she was amazing. She was really supportive. Always told me off for not attending assembly, but I was like, I'm a parent. I don't really want to waste 15 minutes of my life listening to someone drone on about uniform and standards. Which she found quite funny. We once attended, me and my friend were known for never attending assembly, so we thought, last one at year we'll attend. And they took pictures of us and printed them out and framed them in the room, and it was like a bit far. We just didn't want to go. But yeah, I kind of got this confidence at first, and then it just went bitter. I heard people talking about me. And my biology teacher was always very abrupt with me, so I was like, I'm going to lick her ass and do this massive project on biology handed it to her and she went, well, I know it'll be rubbish, and put it in the bin. And I was like, that's not on. Like,
Wow.
looking back, if someone...
This isn't the same school, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
Because the art and the politics and history teachers, they were really nice to me, but my biology and psychology teachers were just horrendous. I had 2 biology teachers, and one were really pushing me like you can go far, but the other one was dragging me down, so my attendance for the class was dropping a lot. And I feel like, yeah, it's a lot for a teacher to deal with, but if they didn't like the situation I was in or the situation they've been put in, they could have just stayed silent. It's like my friend smoked a lot, and she'd come in and she'd go, you stink of smoke. And I wasn't even smoking, but she'd blamed it on the young parent. And it was just very unfair things like that. But the worst day was when I was walking up the sixth form stairs into the common room, and I heard people laughing and joking. I thought, oh. And then I heard them laughing and joking at me. And I was going to go in and confront them. And then I walked in, and it was some of the heads of the sixth form that were making the jokes to the class. And from like that day, I started eating my lunch and my dinner in the art block or in the toilets, because I just felt so alone as a young parent, and it made me suffer really bad depression. Just because I knew I was trying to get through this to get to an end goal, but I was getting no support from my peers or most of the teaching staff, and it really affected me. Anyway, obviously I failed most of my A levels there.
And do you think that behaviour towards you had an impact on that?
Yeah. For my biology exam, I wrote my teacher bullied me for every answer.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
But obviously, no, people are being like, what's that? Because they just get sent one question. They don't get sent the whole exam. So they're probably like, what's that? I never got reported or anything. But I remember the look on her face. She had such a smarmy grin when she saw I failed on results day. It was like, well, we're not accepting you to resit. And I was like, well, I don't want to resit here anyway. So quickly I had to apply to other places, going through the same interview processes. And I ended up at York College, and the teaching was so different. And I know there's like a couple of bad eggs everywhere, but the teaching was so different. They treated me like a woman instead of a teen. Like, you are the mother of a child. And I think that's what I needed. I needed to be a bit higher than my peers, not because of my ego, but just because of my life circumstance. And they were like, it'll take you a few years to get to uni, but we'll get there. But with the mass support they've gave me, and whilst I was at college, I was in a very domestic abusive relationship. And it came to a head on my 18th birthday when he assaulted me, but 2 weeks before all my exams at that college. And I didn't really have a good experience with the police there, so I was let down again by a different authority then. But that college kind of held me together and was like, you're going to get through this. You've done all this work for a year. We're going to do it. And I was like, can I apply to uni just to see what they want from me? I know I'm not going to get in this year. And I was looking through the courses whilst I was applying, still undecided. And then I saw counselling psychology at Leeds Trinity, and I thought I can apply and just see what I'll need next year. And on results day, a few weeks before, they've given me a conditional offer. As long as I pass my maths GCSE, they'd accept me. So obviously results day, only one going in, because that were kind of the rule on results day there. I walked in thinking, if I don't get this C, and I have to resit maths for the 6th time. But and I was there shaking, and my teacher's grinning at me, because obviously they get the results, don't they, before? And he's like, and I hadn't even opened it, and I opened it, and I got the C, and I've never cried. I don't think I've cried that much since. It was just relief. And then you find out in 5 years' time that GCSE's worth nothing.
But it's the GCSE that got you into university.
I've still got the little certificate at home, even though it's worth nothing now. Like, look what I did.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, I've got the other 4 Ds, but I've got the 5th C.
That's all you needed.
Yeah, it's going to be a centre point when I have my own house, just on the front door.
Yeah, mantelpiece.
See on the maps.
Just photocopy loads of them.
Just wallpaper with it.
You do need to. We shy away from shouting about achievements.
Oh yeah, we do.
Thing. Like we don't want to seem braggy.
It's people at work are always like, you downplay your achievements. And I'm like, no, I don't. And then they start to talk about what I did and what I've done. And I'm like, curling up. Like,
if you thought about it as somebody else's story, you would be like, okay, no, I can't believe you achieved all that in those circumstances. You'd say that about somebody else.
Oh, yeah, I would. But no, you're not about yourself. It's, like, I'm not that egotistical. But now I think I've learned, especially through the work I do with my mate now, that overcoming, even if it's a minor thing to you, to someone else even, it could be the whole world to you that you've overcome. And I think it's taking pride in your own story and not comparing it to others, which...
I think that goes for everything. When we talk about having a bad day and people are like, oh, you think you've had a bad day? Let me tell you about my day. And it's like, it's not a competition. And what's going on for me might not be as bad as what you're in, but for me, this is the worst possible day.
Life, yeah,
this is the worst day I could possibly have. So just appreciate that. And it's, not... Like, I'm... In a couple of days, I will be... 7 years since the day I went to prison, so it's 7 years since I drank alcohol, 7 years since I took drugs, and I want to do a video where I'm just talking to camera about the change in my life, the positive things that have come from it, the things I've achieved, and then send it to prisons.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling with, who does this guy think he is?
You need someone
They're going to be there in prison, like, look at this guy. I bet he's da-da-da. I just think...
With his little crown.
Yeah.
But, no, you need someone else to get the questions formulated and sit down and do it like that.
Yeah.
Because I still find it hard. It's like I'm meant to be making a film for the NHS at the minute about my journey. My friend's like co-heading it, so it's a bit weird that she's kind of above me now, but she's not like one of my closest friends, and she was like, for us, it's a general chat, and we've got dark humour, and we just make jokes about it, and it's cutting that out and sitting there and actually being serious about your achievements.
Yeah.
And it's...
Do you think it'd be easier if it was a stranger?
I don't know, because I'd probably make a really bad joke, and the only one who'd find it funny is Megan. And they'd be sat there like, ringing crisis team, like, you need some support.
Oh, gosh.
I do it now. Like,
does it have to be serious?
No, I don't. I think you can joke about it. I think if you sat there like a politician, giving a politician's speech.
But then I interviewed my nephew, who's had 4 brain tumours removed between the ages of 10 and 15. And I thought, do you know what? People are going to cry. Yeah. I'm going to have people crying, and I can't wait. And everyone's going to be putting comments about, sobbing. And the way that he's dealt with it and his attitude towards it is just like, if it comes back, I'll just beat it again. Done it 4 times, and it was. I think if you were teary, it's more of a proud than
it's like, 'cause it's so inspiring.
Yeah, this is it. And it's just his attitude towards it, and I was like, oh mate, at least like pretend like do like a really like long pause, and then just be like, look straight at the camera and just do something, And it's just, but his attitude is just amazing. And
I think that's when you've accepted something and you are determined to overcome it.
His social media, the charity they've started is called Determined Dan.
Oh, that was a bit...
That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, be psychic next week.
It shows that it fits with exactly what he's going through. So, okay, so you get your C.
Yeah.
Then what?
Contact the uni. Get a confirmation email that I'm starting uni.
Do you have to explain your circumstances?
I had an interview, and he was like, "Why do you want to sit this course?" And I'm like, and then I was sat there, I can't say I had to prove people wrong. But I did.
What age are you? You were 16 or 17?
Oh, at the interview for uni, I was 17. I would I'll have been 18.
Okay.
It's quite hard to think back of it, but I'd have been 18. And I went and sat it in August, and he was like, because they'd already given me the conditional, but he was my tutor, so I think he just wanted to check in and see what I needed from the uni. And it was just surreal. Someone asking me it from a teaching point of view. What do you need for us to support you through this journey? It was probably what I needed 4 years ago, but I'd finally got in. It was just so bizarre. Like, first day walking them halls, like, how am I here? Felt like I was a bit of a ghost and no one could see me, kind of thing. But it wasn't easy. So many times I wanted to give up.
Is that through the pressure of the work and home
Yeah.
life together?
Yeah, and you had to do a lot of volunteering during the course and
Okay.
juggling that. And I don't know, I went through a stage, obviously I was still healing from the abuse, which starting uni, got a young child, working on a helpline, dealing with all that. It was like I had to cut off certain parts of my brain each day. And it just smacked me, like, probably in January of my first year, like, just smacked me, like, out the water. So I had to sit down and really deal with it. Because I noticed tendencies, like, were starting to develop with eating again. But instead of starving this time, I went to the other extreme and just piled on probably 5 stone within a year into my second year. And I had a couple of bereavements. I lost my gran and I lost my granddad through uni. And a close family member, somehow related, was bereaved in my final year of suicide. So I had a lot of bereavements through university as well, and it was just a turbulent time dealing with everything. And again, I started to feel like I didn't fit in. And I was thinking, you're putting that pressure on yourself. You don't want yourself to fit in because you've never fit in anywhere. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to join the rugby team. This were in my final year. I tried in the first year and just thought, I can't do it. And then I injured my foot. And I was like, so I went through that. But I just had to find where I fit in somewhere, and they were the most supportive bunch of girls ever. And they just took on board Lily. They were really accommodating. They let me bring her to training, and they'd go out of the way to let her join in and things, and they didn't have to do that. And I think it just shows how a good person can really impact your life, or a good group of people. I felt like I belonged for the first time within education for years, but I wouldn't have got there without, in the first year I was going to drop out. I was walking down the hall, a snotty crying mess, like, why have I done this to myself? Why have I put myself through this? I've now got student loan to pay off, and I haven't even got a degree, and I was walking down to the office to go drop out, and I just heard this voice go, "Are you okay?" And I went, no, and she sat me in a room, Dr. Alison Torn. She won't mind me saying this because I said it on the news a few months ago. She got a little clip. And she sat down and listened to me, and I told her about my entire journey and everything that I've had to overcome to come to uni. It was the first time anyone had sat down and listened to my journey. And she was like, you'll get the degree. I'll support you. And then I got to final year and it just started to mess up again. I was like, I'm not going to get this degree.
So when she tells you this, you're sat in a room and you're so close to leaving, that's your mindset. As soon as I get to that office, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm ringing that bell, or I'm tapping out, or whatever euphemism.
Bye.
Yeah. And then she sort of tackles you into a room and you tell her all this stuff, which obviously brings up all that emotion anyway. And then she says, don't worry about it, we'll sort it. Does that fill you full of hope or skepticism, or do you believe her? Does it motivate you?
I'm like, I've heard that all before.
Okay. Because of teachers in the past?
I mean, through my education, I feel so sorry. Every pregnant person gets like an educational support worker. It took me ages to adjust, and Adele, I've contacted her since and thanked her after my journey. I feel so sorry for her because she'd always tell me, you'll do it. And I'm like, no. So angsty, like, I won't do this. And when you go into a college setting and not a school setting, she had to leave, and I felt, my support system's left. But I walked into York College and got a better support system. Not a better, but another support system. And then at uni, I felt like I can't really go waste a lecturer's time when they've got loads of students to go tell them what I needed. But Alison listened. And listened to everything that had gone on, and I managed. I didn't get the best grades, but to me a degree's a degree. It doesn't really matter about the grade as long as I passed. But in third year, I was just struggling. I'd just overcome the binge eating. I'd lost my granddad over the summer, who was just, it was a bit of a rock. He was my step granddad, and I have the same tattoo as him there.
Nice.
It was my mum's stepdad even, and it was just a shock because he was like, I can't wait to see you graduate. Inside this image in my head of both my granddads from both sides of the family being there at my graduation, and suddenly that image had been torn away. And then a few months later, a close family friend died by suicide, and I'd just spent the weekend with her. And my dissertation was on why media is affecting suicide rates and body image issues in women. So I had to take another 6 months to complete the degree. It was needed. I feel so sorry for my dissertation lead because I was awful to deal with. I wouldn't respond for ages. Then I'd email her back and wouldn't get a response and be like, why? But it's because of me. It took me ages. Didn't get the best grade in this dissertation because obviously I just didn't care about it. I thought there's bigger things to deal with. But I got the grade. And I was like, a third's a third. Like, at first I was like, oh, it's not a 2-1, it's not a 2-2. What am I going to do? Can't go around showing people that. Like, I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed. And I was like, and everyone was like, but it's a degree. Yeah. You've got more of an education than most people. And I thought, yeah, it's took a lot of work and there's been so many hurdles. It wasn't just smooth sailing over university. And then in the December I graduated, which were just that's another blur. And looking back now, my granddad came, he's 86, and it was a really proud moment for him.
Nice.
And he always goes to me now, I went and saw him last week, and he was like, do you remember when you had her? You texted me saying, I'm not alone anymore, Grandad. I don't think I'll want to leave anymore, meaning that I won't want to take my own life. He's like, and you put after it, I'll make you proud. And he went, you always made me proud, but graduating, I just saw it. And like, when I were walking up to get the certificate, Lily was like, that's my mummy. They pronounced my name wrong. She was like, that's not how you pronounce my mummy's name. And I was like, oh, but she's there and I could see her.
Did she shout out while you walked up?
Yeah. Oh. And she was just clapping and she was on the front row and I could see her jumping. And I thought, that's been quite a journey for her as a young girl.
Yeah.
And she's grown up with me feeding her in one arm, reading a book or a GCSE book to, in final year especially, her doing homework whilst I'm writing a dissertation. So I think she really values education now. Like, she loves to learn herself and knows. I've always said you don't have to be the best at everything, just as long as you're happy, because I don't want her to feel that pressure of the exams that I did, because I felt I had to.
You doing all this learning has had to have some sort of effect on her, because she'll want to be like mummy. Yeah. And if mummy's always learning new stuff.
Yeah, she Channel 5 came to interview me about it, and Lily, and they went, do you want to do a degree? She went, no, it looks a bit boring. She was like, no, not for me. She keeps juggling between police officer or sports star, and I'm like,
oh, okay.
She can run. Like, if I say to Lily, shall we go for a walk? She's like, oh, do we have to? But if I go, do you want to go for a run? She's like, yeah, let's go out the door. She just loves to run long distance.
Oh, wow.
And she's into a sport, so for me, she doesn't have to be academic. She can just do what she wants as long as she's happy. Yeah. But I always get that back on, like, social media. What if she does this? What if she does that? I'm like, as long as she's happy.
What if she makes the same decisions that you made?
Yeah. I wouldn't want her to, but if she did, I'm not going to not support her. Like, it happens. But hopefully she won't be on that destructive path if she has the right support in the first place.
Yeah. So the amount of stuff you've achieved is ridiculous. So, and you've mentioned the Masters now.
Yeah. So in health and well-being.
So there's no like, all right, I've achieved the degree. That's all I ever wanted.
Yeah, I've took 9 months out of education, really.
You've just got your maternity leave.
Yeah, from it. I never got one when I had Lily, so I've got it now.
So what's the Masters? Is this a real thing that's happening, or is it something you're looking into?
Oh, no, I start in September.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I start a month, I think, in a month's time. Health and well-being. Okay. So I kind of want to go into public health within the management, within mental health, because I've seen what happens to the families that are supported with those with serious mental health issues. First-hand experience of eating disorders and self-harm, anxiety and depression and suicidal tendencies. And I've seen the pressure of exams. I've obviously witnessed it recently for other people, but I've had it myself and I've seen there's been no change. So hopefully that's something I can do, because I share my story a lot now.
Yeah. It's good. People need to hear it, and the lived experience side, you can never be wrong in what you're saying because
No.
it's stuff that you've lived, and it's what people take the most from as well. I worked in Halifax with young people, and they were taking, I don't think the calmers, but very similar illegal medication.
For like anxiety beta blockers.
Yeah, just to be able to take an exam.
I know that one well.
We do sort of say, you know, the school year is the most important years of your life as a way to motivate them
But
to
it
try. But then
terrifies
you
them.
think, are we doing that to motivate them? But is it having the opposite effect? Because now they're thinking, oh, well, I've not really done well this year, and now I know I'm going to fail all my exams, and it's just constant pressure.
It's a pressure to get a C, or is it a 3 or 4 now or something? I don't know.
I'm not sure what they are now, but it is. It's. I do think things need to change. You know, I've mentioned this before. There's a poet called Prince E.A., and he does a piece about suing the school system. Have you seen it?
Yeah, and
Where
he
it's in,
compares
like, a
it to the
courtroom.
PRISM system.
Yeah, and it's very sort of, if you look at a telephone from, I don't know, 50 years ago, or a car from 50 years ago, everything from 50 years
Yeah.
ago has evolved
I did,
apart from school.
I set up something called the Thoughtful Minds movement on Instagram, and I wrote a piece about how the education system hasn't changed since 1986, and you think of everything that has changed. I wrote it as kind of an open letter to the government and posted it on my Twitter account, and it got quite a lot of traction from teachers as well, saying it hasn't changed since I've been there, and it's a bit worrying that, especially in today's climate with mental health issues as well, it's not on the curriculum. They've kind of took PSHE away.
We usually go in and deliver on PHSE sessions, and we found that if there's if there's a snow day where they're shut, if there's a fire alarm, if the school has to close for whatever reason, they cancel the PHSE day and they do the lessons that would have been missed on that day, and it's the first thing that they get rid of.
It's how stretched teachers are. They need external support, like a counsellor in every school. That'd be the biggest thing ever. Not between loads of schools, but one counsellor. Anyone can go knock on the door on a lunch and say, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I think it'd save a lot of people's lives
the
long run.
I went to a school the other side of Leeds. I won't say the name even if I can remember it, but we went for a meeting there. And this little dog came running up to me. I love dogs, so I was just sat on the floor, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's because they do the restraining, which I'm not sure how I feel about. If it
makes it too much like a prison, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you're stopping somebody from injuring somebody else, fair enough. But if it's just an act of anger, then like I've been to a school with a padded room. So when kids get angry, they go into the room and they just thrash about, and then they come back out again. I can see the benefit in that, but thinking about having a padded room in a school just doesn't sit right.
Yeah,
like the way,
which is understandable. I visited the 14 plus. It'd been late last year. I visited it again. It's changed so much in 5, 6 years since I was there, and they kind of have that on the walls, like protecting in case people had, but they do deal with extreme mental health. But their way to tackle it, they've done like a calming room, and every year the pupils get to decorate that room and choose what stuff goes in there. So it makes it a really safe zone. And I think there's no uniforms there, it's first name basis. And I think that's really showing where we need to go with the education system. There needs to be a dedicated room.
Yeah.
Even if it is, I can understand the padded's a bit too much like prison, especially with the way things are going with pandemic wise and all the outlines at the minute, which I understand why, but it makes it more regimented. And I think when you've witnessed that difference and witnessed the difference in school, it can be quite hard to come off the path of self-destruction that leads into prisons, and you'd be quite used to it if you came out of school and went straight to prison.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's where the change needs to happen.
I mean, we've done a lot of work in schools over the last 5 years. We've done a lot of work in a lot of schools. And I'd say sort of 95% of the schools and the people teachers that I meet are all absolutely brilliant, and their attitude is very sort of person-centered. Each child is an individual, and you
Yeah.
think you've got schools of sort of, I don't know, over 400 kids, and there's teachers that are there as support staff that know every single kid by name, by face,
Yeah.
and it that gives me some comfort. Like my teachers weren't brilliant. Yeah, they weren't brilliant. I had an RE teacher, and the good thing that came from RE, so I was one of those where I was like, he picks on me and he does this and he does that, but I used to design a lot of things when I was young. Like I used to draw a trainer, and then I'd trace it like 50 times and then do different designs.
Yeah.
So obviously I needed paper, so I'd steal exercise books, and he obviously knew, but he'd tell you off, and he'd put his head here while you were sat on your chair, and he'd whisper in this dirty Irish accent, and the smell of tobacco and coffee. I've never tried either. I've never smoked, and I've never drunk coffee.
It just like ingrains in your brain, doesn't
Yeah,
it? It does.
So that's the one good thing that came out of that lesson. I mean, I got loads of free paper.
I mean, I was horrible, like, sometimes in school to put up with.
Yeah.
One of the male teachers went, you need to pull your skirt down because all the girls used to wear it as a belt, so I pulled it down to my ankles. I went, are you happy now? I had tights on, obviously, really dark tights, like legging tights. But I was like, my skirt wouldn't go down any further.
Shit, basically. Is what everyone's felt sorry for you up to this point.
It all changes now. No, but then there were teachers that, like, before I was pregnant with Lily, I started year 10, you could wear makeup. And I love makeup. I feel like it's self-expression. I don't feel like I have to wear it, but if I want to wear it, I will do. So excited, went in, my teacher went, you look like a clown. Stood me up in front of the class and was like, rosy cheeks, clown. Too fat for a skirt, clown. Bearing in this point, I'd been diagnosed with anorexia. I'd lost loads of weight through school, and everyone would applaud me for losing this weight, and I'd be like, this gratification. And I just remember in year 10, like, wow, I've just been destroyed by a teacher. Like, I can't live this up anymore. And I just remember telling my mum, and mum was like, he did what? And mum was like, if that had have happened in my day, there'd have been a riot. And now, like,
I couldn't even imagine, like, the teachers are there to prevent bullying and.
But it wasn't just me.
Confidence.
There was multiple girls in that bathroom wiping their makeup off that day. I refused to wipe mine off. I cried most of it off, but that doesn't really count. And I just thought, you've destroyed so many girls' self-worth in the space of 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And maybe he's stressed, maybe he's had a bad morning, but it doesn't mean taking it out on a young person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, and like you said, there's sort of one in, I don't know, every 100 that shouldn't be doing that job. Yeah, that's an arsehole. But yeah, I've had some really, really some positive experiences, and it's given me hope in the sense that I think young people are in a good position to get support now.
And I feel like it's the older teachers that are stuck in their own ways. The teachers going into it
definitely.
now and been in it for like the last 20 years are those that are so understanding of the need for change.
Yeah.
And they're going above and beyond. Like, I have friends who are teachers and they just go out the way. They buy stuff out their own wage for the class. And if a child's struggling with tampons, they'll buy them for the child. And I feel like so much money, but that's a totally different subject. Politics, and you don't need to get me in that. I'll probably be in that later in life, shouting at Conservatives like, you need to put more money here.
Yeah, I've got a friend called Abby I used to work with her at a hotel, and she's brilliant. She's just like a genuinely nice person. She's absolutely amazing, and she's a teacher in Barnsley. I think it's Barnsley, or she lives in Barnsley. It's over that way. And through lockdown, what she's been doing is online. She'll record a video and she'll post it online for the students.
Yeah.
And when I sort of said, oh, how's it going? She was like, I'm on my 6th, 7th video. The first 3 I did, and it was all and I was really enthusiastic, and then 3 people watched it out of however many hundreds. I was like, we can't punish them for not watching it.
No, because it's a weird time.
I'm doing these videos, and I just thought, and she said, as long as there's 3 people watching it, I'll continue to do it. If that drops to 1, as long as somebody's watching it, and I thought, what if they're just clicking on the video and they're not watching it?
Lily's school went above and beyond. I kept her off. I sent her back for like the last 4 weeks. And we have an app anyway called Dojo where you can just message the teacher directly. It's like a social media app.
Nap, as in you had a sleep.
No, an app. A nap.
All right.
A nap.
Not a nap, a nap.
No, nap.
Thanks for clearing that one up.
A nap on Dojo. And she posted links to where she were reading a book, her favourite book, to the students. So they still had story time with her every day. And she did that till obviously school started getting up and running again. But it was just that little bit of normality for Lily. I noticed every day. She'd be like, has she posted the link yet? Has she...
So what's this? Her reading a book?
To the camera and uploading it, and the kids could watch it. And it was just that little bit, because they get story time when they're in like year 1 reception. Don't know if they're doing year 2. She might be devastated in September. But she just loved that, and it encouraged her to read, because she was really putting her foot down. You're not my teacher, you're my mother. Like,
so you weren't allowed to read to her?
I wasn't allowed to teach her anything. Like, you're not meant to. My mum tried, does it for my mum, sits at the side of my partner, does the schoolwork, but I think it's just that clash of mother trying to teach her, and she's like, no, you're doing it wrong. And I don't have patience. She doesn't have patience. I'm like, I'm doing it right. I'm like, I'm not even doing any maths with you, because that's just a bad subject. But it's that bit of normality, I think, especially. And I know a lot of schools have done it, and the teachers didn't have to do that. So it shows that there is so many good people out there.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about the work you've been doing?
So when I started with my mate, it's an under-25s website in Leeds, the normal clinical spiel for you there. I was so nervous about this job interview, terrified of who's my boss now.
So
when I went
with my mate, because it's under. Were you interviewed by young people?
No, I was interviewed by some young people, but the management and young people. Well,
so they're all old. The management
they're
are
older
all
than
old.
25. They're older than 25.
Oh, okay, nice save.
Pulled it back. I'm getting a text after this.
I'm definitely not cutting that bit out.
Just tag them all in it on Twitter. But anyway, I went and I saw it on Facebook as a Facebook ad, and I was like, this is amazing. So I started that. And it was just about talking about mental health and what needs to improve in Leeds. And at first I was like, I'll just be writing stuff for a website. But I've attended like board meetings, like Future in Mind, you'll know probably about that. I've attended stuff. I've like done procurement for new companies to come in and run stuff for mental health. And that's quite weird, being quite young and going into all these execs and listening to them pitch to me and to other young people, and then deciding whether they're good enough. And it's such good insight on how the NHS and other Leeds City Council work, and it's really amazing to see. And that's something I've done a lot of in the last year. But as well as going into schools and doing stalls and events and talking about the need, I've also public spoke about my journey at CCG events. I spoke with Nazir Afzal, who was a Crown prosecutioner. If you've seen Three Girls, you'll know who he is for a lot of CSE cases. And I've spoke alongside him about mental health and the education system. And that were a really out-of-body experience, because I'd followed his work. And then I was given the opportunity to speak after him, and I was like, how can I follow this up? But I still get tweets now. When I graduated, I heard you speak at this CCG away day. You were amazing.
Nice. When you're going to talk, do you plan what you're going to say, or do you just get up and talk?
Well, it depends. If they want images alongside it of like me through my childhood, then I've got the idea. But I'd never write a script, because it depends on the day what I want to talk about. Yeah. And I discussed this a lot, like we're filming the story, and I was like, it'll depend how I feel on that day to what I'm sensitive to and what I want to open up to. And I think
so then how will you feel though when the film comes out, if you're feeling different?
I think I'll be fine. It just depends if something's triggered it, especially in regards to talking about domestic violence. That is the one that I find a bit tricky, especially because now I'm navigating a new relationship. That is going well, but it's still hard if you've been through abuse of any form. It's hard.
I'm guessing he knows
everything. Yeah. He's the most sensitive, soft person.
Nice.
Just really nice. But I think it depends on like the day, but once it's on film, I can't do anything about it, but it might help someone who is in that situation. So I feel as a young person going through domestic abuse, you're not taken as seriously as someone who's older and been there longer. So that is probably what I'll be working towards in the near future, using once I'm comfortable. It's 4 or 5 years since it all happened, so I've had that healing time, and now I do want to make change because I don't want anyone else going through that.
It's such a difficult conversation. I've got 2 people who messaged asking if they could come and talk about domestic violence, about their experience. One of them led to suicidal thoughts, and I think there was attempts, and we sort of arranged it. And then when it got to either the day or the day before, it was just sort of like, oh, I'm really sorry, but... And it's cool because I understand.
Yeah.
If it was someone coming to talk about their job and then they cancelled the day before, I'd be a bit annoyed. But I didn't expect it, but I was very aware that this is a potential thing that could happen.
Like, it could be out of anywhere. You could be walking down the street and see someone who looks like them.
Yeah.
That's quite bad for me sometimes, but it did turn out I had actually seen them. And for ages I was like thinking, am I going insane? And I think it happens for a lot. And then all the memories come forward and it can just knock you, either for a few hours or a few weeks or even a few months.
So what helps?
For me, knowing I'm safe.
Yeah.
Feeling safe. That's all I ever wanted from a partner. I don't care what you do. Well, I do care what you do, but... what kind of person you are, but I need to feel safe. I need to know you're not going to raise your voice at me. I still find that hard if anyone raises the voice.
Yeah, but what if you're being a dick? what if you're being a dick and...
Yeah, I mean, there's limits, but like, relationship-wise, it'll be like, Rachael.
He's going to have to learn like sign language and just do like angry sign language.
But no, but I think... because of his childhood too, he doesn't like confrontation. So I think if we're arguing, we're going to be whispering at each other.
I'm really sick of this. Yeah. Okay. That could work.
Yeah, I mean...
I think that would just make you laugh as well.
Yeah, and I don't want Lily raised in a childhood household, whatever you want to call it, of shouting.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite makes people nervous. But if I'm being a dickhead, I do deserve to be shouted at, but I'll know that. And it's like if I'm being a bit of a tit on a night out, my mates will be like, look, that doesn't bother me. But if it's like there's tension anyway, I fear the aggression, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, especially in the pandemic at the minute, I fear, like, because it's such an unknown time, I can be walking down the street and I'll be thinking, oh, what if this is going to happen? Even though it's not going to happen. But I think it's just because of the unease you feel during that period.
So when you think, what if this is going to happen, is that like a...
What if he comes over and kills me like he said he did all them years ago?
And speaking about the guy from before?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Because I sometimes do the whole... What would I do if this happens? And then I'm like, I'm prepared for any situation.
I mean, I hope everyone does that. Oh, we're just a bit...
The first time I realised, I was on a bus going to Harrogate, and it was on a national speed limit. So the bus is doing like 60 mile an hour.
Yeah.
I'm sat upstairs on this bus, and it's all fancy with like leather seats, and it's dead nice. And I just thought, there's no seatbelts on this. What would I do if this was to crash or tip? And then I was like, well, if it tipped over, I'd stand on the bit in between the windows, because then it could slide and I'd be stood up normally. And I had this whole plan, and I do that. I think I do that a lot on the bike.
I plan my escapes, like, as long as I know.
I know which way I'm going to go if someone's starting.
Yeah. And in meeting rooms, I'll face myself near the door or the window. Not that I'm going to jump out the window, but I can see out of it. But I think that's something if you've had anxious or you've had to be in survival mode for a long time.
Yeah.
You're constantly thinking of a way out.
Yeah, I've mentioned it to a few people, and a lot less have said, yeah, I do that, than have said, you fucking weirdo. Why would you? And it's not like a sadistic, or I'm planning death.
No.
It's just like...
have you ever done the zombie apocalypse one?
No.
Maybe that's me. Like,
what's your plan?
No, if a zombie apocalypse happened now, what would you do?
Well, what's your plan?
Right now, probably take the mic and hit someone over the... Not you, but like hit whatever comes in the room.
What kills zombies?
Bashing the brains out, apparently, but we've never
been
in that
like
scenario.
Full-on aggression.
Yeah, protect myself. But then again, part of me's like, would I give up? Like, this is the conversation I have. Maybe I'm unusual, but I've spoke to all my friends and they do it, so maybe we're just a group of weirdos.
Okay.
But like, I think, like, what if a deadly disease happens? I mean,
It has happened. So what was your plan? Did you have the
Hide away,
did
which
you have
I have done.
preparation
So.
before this happened then?
No, I haven't got like a survival box. I'm not one of them.
Okay. Oh
Like
wow. I
escape.
feel like
My
I need
plan
a
would be,
plan for a zombie.
If I were at home, get in a car, go to Scotland.
Because Scotland don't have
Quite
zombies.
rural. No, there's loads of countryside.
I mean, there was a terrorist in Scotland who drove a car into an airport, got out, it was on fire, and the guy in the airport just punched him and knocked him out while he was on fire. And it's like, that's who I want to be with.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You all think you're going to be brave.
Just said something about Scotland. You want to go and chin them?
Yeah,
how do zombies kill you?
I don't know, biting, yeah, it depends. It depends what films you watch, like I've watched.
I'd get my helmet, put my motorbike helmet on, and I'd just run and headbutt them to escape.
I mean, yeah, but
that's like now.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be more prepared, like outside.
I mean, don't go carrying knives or anything.
Yeah, we're not promoting that. We're definitely not. All blunt objects.
Police officer stops you. I've got that just in case there's a zombie.
Well, Phil, who works with the police, who teaches young people about choices and
consequences. Well, this weirdo came in on the podcast and said you need to be prepared. I love horror films, and I think that's probably why my brain diverts to that option rather than a car crash.
Yeah, for me, it's just everyday stuff. If I'm on the motorway on a bike, if that car was to pull in across the front of me now,
you have to be that aware, don't you?
Do this, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
what a lovely end. I
know.
Now you're going to be sat planning it.
I'm already thinking about it while I'm sat here.
I think recently it's happened because during lockdown I watched a Netflix series called The Kingdom. It's a Korean, 14th century political drama, but it's got zombies in it. So he's got, the king's dead.
14th century political
Korean
drama, Korean, and it's got zombies in it.
Yeah.
I think they were ticking boxes and what we're going to do.
Everything.
Let's do a drama thing. I think we need one more. What else can we add?
I'm not really selling it, am I? But
let's add zombies and just see what happens.
It was the best thing I've ever watched, really. It's a series, and I was like, oh, this is going to be boring. Watching it with boyfriend, and he's working. I watch ahead, but pretend I haven't watched ahead. And I'm like, oh, this is going to happen. And he was like, how do you know? And I'm like, oh, it's just a guess.
I used to do that with Chantel and never told her. So we shared a Netflix account, so she'd be at home, because I only saw her on a weekend, so she'd be in Stockport. And it'd tell her when I'd watched something. And so I'd have to watch it and then start playing it again. So the bar only goes a little bit and say, oh, no, I pushed play and then realised that you wanted it. So, and I'd watch a full episode or something.
But you knew what were coming up and you're like... But yeah, one of the major plots, we were sat with his housemate and I was like, oh, I bet something, don't want to give it away, to do with the Queen. I was like, I bet she's lying. And he was like, she won't be. And I was like, I think she is. And then it happens and he was like, you've watched ahead. And I'm like, no.
So does he know now that you have?
Yeah, of
or
course
is this
he has.
how he's finding out?
Surprise. No, of course he did. I can't lie for anything. So he's like, how much have you watched? I can't say I've not watched it all, but...
Yeah, just bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really watch, but...
Just drip feed it. It's been amazing to have you in, and I've learned a lot more about you today. I thought I knew quite a lot about your story, but all the sort of pre-14 stuff I didn't know about. You're just a massive inspiration, and there's so many people who don't do something because it might be a bit tough.
Yeah, it's the fear of the unknown, and I'd like to finish by saying if you are scared, but you think it'd benefit your life in a positive way, you should go for it. Yeah.
And what if people are going through similar things that you went through? Is there organisations that you recommend? Or
mental health wise, I always will recommend Marketplace for younger people.
Yeah.
Young parenting wise, if you're pregnant and at school, speak to the teacher you trust the most or your parents. Apart from that, there isn't really any organisations.
All right. I'll put Rachel's number at the bottom. So
my email address. But I've always said on Twitter my inbox is open. I've had multiple parents who have struggled, not even young parents, but are struggling with university and just wanted someone to vent to.
Right. We'll put a link to that in this as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you for coming in. Genuinely, it's really, really good to see you.
Thank
and
you.
To see that you're still doing well and you're still trying to achieve more.
I know. Not dead from the zombie apocalypse.
A break after your masters.
Yeah, definitely.
Time off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.